Good evening. Tonight we begin with a moment that US officials, European leaders, and military planners had long feared, quietly anticipated, and cautiously prepared for. A moment that did not unfold gradually over months or even weeks, but erupted violently within a single devastating 72-hour window. 72 hours that altered the course of this war, shattered grim records no one hoped would ever be broken, and forced the world to confront a harsher and more dangerous reality on the ground in Ukraine. What Russia carried out this week crossed a threshold Western leaders had desperately hoped would remain intact, and when that line finally gave way, Ukraine did not retreat, it did not fracture, and it did not surrender. Instead, it answered with resistance, precision, and an intensity that even Moscow did not fully anticipate. Yet tonight, as Kyiv confirms its highest casualty toll since the conflict began, another powerful voice is entering the conversation, not from the front lines, but from American politics, as former President Donald Trump calls for immediate negotiations, urging an end to the fighting and demanding a deal now, raising a critical question that hangs over this moment. Can Ukraine endure long enough to negotiate from a position of strength, or does this demand represent a lifeline or a fatal blow to Ukraine's resistance? For weeks, there were signals that something extraordinary was coming, not from official Kremlin announcements or state media declarations, but from subtler indicators familiar to Western intelligence agencies. Russia had long followed a recognizable operational rhythm, a pattern of pressure and escalation that analysts had learned to interpret. But this time, the pattern vanished. Troop movement slowed, communications went quiet, and when Russia falls silent, history shows it is often preparing to strike with overwhelming force. Intelligence officials quietly warned Kyiv that something major was imminent, uncertain of the precise timing or scale, but confident it would be severe. And those warnings proved tragically accurate as Ukraine entered its deadliest week since February 2022. Early Monday morning, Ukrainian military command detected what they described as a coordinated multi-axis offensive involving ground forces, massive artillery barrages, and aerial strikes concentrated at a level not seen in more than a year and a half, the kind of operation Russia reserves for moments when it seeks not just territory, but momentum, psychological shock, and political leverage. The assault unfolded simultaneously across multiple regions. Russian forces pushed forward in the east toward towns long held by Ukraine, unleashed their heaviest southern bombardment since the fall of Bakhmut, and along the northern frontier began probing defenses in a way that suggested the possibility of an entirely new front, forcing Ukrainian commanders to mobilize reserves, reinforce defensive lines, and confront casualty reports flooding into Kyiv at an unsustainable pace. By Tuesday evening, it was clear this was no routine escalation. Ukraine was losing soldiers at a rate that could not be maintained, prompting an urgent and unusually blunt statement from the Ukrainian Ministry of Defense, describing the offensive as unprecedented in scale, devastating in impact, and strategically timed to exploit growing political divisions in the West. Moscow intended this assault to inflict pain, and it succeeded, but psychological warfare only succeeds when the target hesitates, and Ukraine did not. Within 48 hours, Ukrainian forces launched one of the most aggressive counterstrike operations of the war, executing deep precision attacks into Russian-occupied territory, using Western-supplied weapons typically reserved for decisive moments, striking command centers, ammunition depots, logistics hubs, and reinforcement convoys in an effort to dismantle the nervous system sustaining the Russian offensive. According to multiple sources, these strikes achieved significant results, disrupting coordination and slowing Russia's advance. Yet even as Ukraine fought back with calculated ferocity, the casualty figures told a grimmer story of attrition and exhaustion, revealing a military losing experienced soldiers, officers, specialists, drone operators, medics, and artillery crews faster than replacements could be trained. Ukrainian officials confirmed retaliatory strikes on more than 40 Russian military positions, including a major command post in occupied Donetsk, believed to be coordinating the offensive, along with multiple ammunition storage facilities and reinforcement convoys, a deliberate effort to prevent Russia from consolidating gains and exploiting breaches in Ukrainian lines.
These were not symbolic strikes, but strategic ones, designed to blunt momentum rather than chase headlines, and early assessments suggest they succeeded in slowing but not fully stopping the advance. The uncomfortable reality, however, is that Ukraine's resilience comes at an enormous human cost, and intelligence analysts now believe Russia's offensive was less about immediate victory and more about testing whether Ukraine's defenses and morale could finally be pushed to the breaking point after months of grinding attrition. Instead of collapsing, Ukraine responded with speed and precision that drew attention even from pro-Kremlin military bloggers, a rare acknowledgement that Ukrainian capabilities remain formidable and adaptive, demonstrating that Western intelligence support and weapons systems continue to function effectively despite relentless pressure. Russian forces conducted more than 150 artillery strikes per day along a 200-kilometer front, while Ukrainian drone units targeted newly reinforced supply lines, destroying vehicles and disrupting logistics, and special operations forces reportedly struck fuel depots deep behind Russian lines, underscoring Ukraine's ability to complicate every Russian advance. Yet no amount of tactical brilliance can escape the fundamental arithmetic of war. Ukraine is bleeding manpower, and the longer this continues, the closer it edges towards a critical threshold. What makes this moment especially volatile is the political dimension now intersecting the battlefield. Russia's offensive coincides with immense pressure from Vladimir Putin from all sides, nationalists demanding total victory, elites desperate for sanctions relief, commanders calling for resources, and families mourning losses on a staggering scale. Conditions that often drive leaders towards risky, desperate gambits rather than confident strategies. This offensive was not a display of strength, but of urgency, a bid for leverage before the political landscape shifts further, particularly with the prospect of Donald Trump's return to the White House looming over Moscow's calculations. The Biden administration signaled tonight that it views Russia's actions as incompatible with any genuine pursuit of peace, diplomatic language that translates plainly to an accusation that Moscow is racing to seize territory before negotiations become unavoidable. At the same time, Trump's calls for immediate talks resonate with millions of Americans, positioning him as a deal-maker while injecting uncertainty into Ukraine's strategic outlook. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky, addressing the nation in a somber and visibly strained speech, acknowledged the staggering human toll, emphasizing that every fallen soldier represents an entire world extinguished, while reaffirming that surrender is not an option, because surrender would mean the end of Ukraine itself. Behind the scenes, Russia has expanded pressure beyond the battlefield, launching cyber attacks on infrastructure, escalating naval activity in the Black Sea, and intensifying diplomatic efforts to weaken international support for Kyiv, all within the same 72-hour window, a coordinated campaign across military, cyber, economic, and political domains intended to weaken Ukraine before negotiations even begin. Analysts warn that Russia is now fighting less for outright victory and more for bargaining power, seeking to create facts on the ground that can be traded at the negotiating table should talks commence under international pressure. Yet Ukraine's rapid and forceful response has complicated that strategy, signaling that any negotiation will not be dictated unilaterally by Moscow. What we are witnessing now is a brutal test of endurance, with Ukraine fighting to hold long enough to negotiate from strength, Russia pushing to extract leverage before political winds shift, Washington attempting to prevent collapse amid domestic divisions, and global stakes rising with every passing day. The casualty figures emerging tonight are the highest of the war. The battlefield remains volatile across multiple fronts, and political forces far from Ukraine's borders are increasingly shaping its fate. But one message from today's events is unmistakable. Ukraine is not waiting, not retreating, and not surrendering. It is still fighting, even as the cost grows heavier by the hour.